and he is today the director of the Viktor Frankl Institute in Vienna. The Frankl family has just asked him to take on this job. He has also for many, many years worked in the archives of the Viktor Frankl family, going through the letters and lots of material that has not been published before. So actually, Alex has edited some 5 or 6 books that have just come out on Viktor Frankl's theories. Yeah, we went together and visited Ellie Frankl, and it was such a nice thing. I thought we would stay half an hour there at Ellie, we'll have coffee, and we stayed 3 hours. And when we left, she even came to the elevator still talking to us. So, yeah. And Alex is, of course, a professor at Vienna University, lecturing logotherapy, and he has published his own books. And, well, I think we're running out of time, so I guess this is enough. Okay? Yeah. So you can call him Alex. Huh?
So thank you very much, Emily. First of all, can you hear me well also is it close enough? Very good. The second thing is I'm coming from Vienna, from Austria, from Europe, so my English is my second language, so bear with me. And the third point is that after Paul's talk, I just feel like I could only be adding a few footnotes on the presentation of logotherapy. But here we go. Let's start. Yeah? There we go. So that's about the title, and it should become clear. So this is Vienna, and I thought I'd bring a few pictures because sometimes, and I think in the cases of psychotherapy especially, if you see a place where an idea or many ideas were born, you also get a better understanding of the people there. And again, persons are irreducible. Oh yeah, and that's interesting. Wait a second. Okay, it works. Here and then. Wow, very good. So again, this is Vienna. Again, one of the typical alleys in Vienna city, and the most famous one, of course, is Berggasse number 19, where Sigmund Freud used to live, where today it's a Freud Museum, and so it is the birth town, so to speak, of psychotherapy. Here you see Sigmund Freud, and I'm showing this to you for a purpose. If you look when these people died, Freud died in 1939. The second person who was important for Viktor Frankl's own life was Alfred Adler, who died in 1938. These two, each in their own way, were teachers to Viktor Frankl. Frankl was, I think, 15 or 16 when he started correspondence with Sigmund Freud, which unfortunately was lost when the Gestapo took these things away. And he was, soon after he left Freud, he became an Adlerian. He was, whereas somehow is this, could we turn this one on because it's so, the technician, where is he? Very good. And I can as well talk on this. Or maybe, yes, maybe I can have this because it's so. Very good. Yeah. Better. Very good. Thank you. So is it better now, I hope? Yeah. And you can hear me drinking too. Wait a second. I'm sorry. Oh God, oh God. So I think now we have it. I mean, nothing can go wrong now. Okay, so Frankl lived much longer, of course. He was born much later. And I showed these two teachers, Freud and Adler, for a specific reason. First of all, later on, I'm going to show you the differences. But also, there's one important thing, and I think it's not valued highly enough in history of psychology. Both Freud and Adler were spared the most bitter lesson humanity could teach us, namely the Shoah, the Holocaust, whereas Frankl entered straight into it. So in March 1938, very shortly after Freud was able to leave Vienna, and Adler was already living in London, Hitler came to rose to power in Austria, and here you see the synagogue where Frankl's father used to go very regularly. Frankl as a child used to go, and the family used to go in Vienna. And I think these numbers say it all. I mean, in 1938, when Hitler came to Austria, there were 180,000 Jews, and in 1942, and the Holocaust is not finished yet. It went on until the very end. There were only 8,000 of them, 8,102. So, as most of you know, I think, most of you know, Frankl and his immediate family, including his first wife, were deported first of all to Theresienstadt concentration camp, ghetto concentration camp, and then there they were separated. Father died in Theresienstadt, mother went to Auschwitz, and Tilly, the first wife, to Bergen-Belsen. In Theresienstadt, and this is a unique piece of paper we do have. I don't know how many of you know Leo Baeck. Leo Baeck, who was the father of Reformed Judaism, the rabbi of Berlin, who also initiated the first female rabbi, Regina Jonas. Anyway, in Theresienstadt, Leo Baeck was in the same barack, in the same cell building as Viktor Frankl, and he encouraged Frankl to keep on his work. Now, what few people know is that Frankl entered the concentration camps with logotherapy in mind. It already existed in a few papers and as a manuscript. The manuscript was lost in Auschwitz, going to spare that. But this one is a leaflet which was given to the prisoners in Theresienstadt. There it was possible. It wouldn't have been possible in Auschwitz, which was passed along them. And it says in German, in English translation, there's nothing in the world which would give us the strength to cope with outer difficulties or inner weaknesses as the awareness to have a task to live upon, to have a task in life. Yeah. So this was written in Theresienstadt, and if it's been written there, you can imagine it should be applicable everywhere else, so to speak. So this is from a letter Frankl wrote after he was liberated from the camps. 8 we were, only I returned. So 8 was his immediate family and his wife, pregnant wife, and only I returned. When he returned, very, very shortly after, he was about 2 weeks, I think, in Bavaria, near the Dachau complex, the last camp. He wrote this book, Ein Psychologe erlebt das Konzentrationslager. A psychologist experienced the concentration camp. And as you see, the very first edition was supposed to be anonymous. There's no name. There's no author name given. Yeah? Only in the second edition, a few friends of Frankl persuaded him, yeah, that he should stand for it with his own name. The reason why he did not want to do it was that I think he was fairly shy about what he called exhibitionism, especially in psychology. We tend to be very open about how do I feel, etc., etc. Yeah? But he just wanted to show the human condition in a way, yeah, and it has many faces and not necessarily a name. In this case, it got a name in the second edition, and from then on, and I think this is a bestseller. Paul already showed it. Gordon W. Allport, who I think many of you may know, APA president and founder of personal psychology and so on and so forth, and author of the beautiful book Becoming, wrote. I think he was mainly instrumental in getting this book published in America. But not only that, I think 6 months after writing Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl wrote Ärztliche Seelsorge. This is the first edition, which was in English, I think, is called The Doctor and the Soul, which is, I think, the basic work. And then he started to teach at Vienna University. Here you see young Frankl after the camp, so to speak. I think this is 1947. And then came these books. You see also in 1947. So this was a very productive time. Yeah? Good. Logotherapy today, there are over 80 institutes worldwide. Actually, by now, and this, there are 93, and this one is an old file, and I didn't know how to correct it. But it's there are 93 institutes worldwide doing, teaching, researching logotherapy. And here are some of the news of the journals of it. Now the question is, why is logotherapy? I mean, it had a triumph, so to speak. How comes it is so successful? And how comes on the other side that it's something like an insider tip for many? Yeah. In order to get a basic idea, and I think again Paul and others already. I'm trying to keep it short. I know that you must be tired, but so as you know, to make it very very simple, Freud says, and with good reason, because he was living in very sexually repressed times. Yeah. What really drives us is a will to pleasure. Yeah. Adler, who was a pupil of Freud, understood, yes, it is pleasure plus something else. Because if you only look at pleasure, you're mainly concerned with yourself. Yeah, Adler, coming from a very strong socialist family, many of the other Adlers from the family, brothers and sisters, shaped Vienna, so-called Red Vienna. Understood that yes, perhaps that's true, but we also, each of us, has an inferiority complex. This is a term which is Viennese, and Adler, brought it into the dictionary. And he said, we know each of us, we are too small, too big, too whatever. Yeah, there's some deficit we think we do have, and we are trying to compensate it. Actually, we're trying to overcompensate it. And how do you do that? By gaining power. Yeah, the most important thing about these motivation theories is that they are literal readings of mankind. This is what drives us. It's not that we are, for example, Freud. If you look at his works, you see works on the Moses of Michelangelo, and it's not about the psychology of it. It's really an explanation of why Michelangelo made Moses, and you see. And there are many, and as you know, Freudians tend to be reductionists in a word. Yeah, what they are saying is that in the end, whatever you do and however nice it looks, in the end, it's a way to sublimate or compensate libido. And I'm going to read you a quote by Freud, which makes it very clear. He says in a letter to Bonaparte, religion, schizophrenia, and poetry. These three phenomena, now let's see how this ends, are nothing but, this is the language of reduction, there's nothing but halfway decent ways to cope with overbordering lust, libido. Yeah. So you see, this is a very, very strict model. Be it right or wrong, it's reductionist anyway. And the second goes for Alfred Adler. When he says we are looking for power, it's not that we want to have power in order to do something nice, yeah, to change society or whatever. It's really just the end goal of it. Yeah, it's not power in order to do something with it. Good. So in the end, and unfortunately the story goes on even in modern days, all these motivation theories, they say that man is a being which has like an empty hole we are desperately trying to fill. Yeah, there are always deficits which are driving us. Yeah. Okay, and these deficits, to boil it down into one sentence, it means that your psychological, your mental health, and your happiness depends on whether life gives you the circumstances which are good for you, for your needs, whether they are need fulfilling or not. Yeah? And this is an actual quote, and I said the source, it's a future patient. I have reached almost all the goals. This is from a letter I have set for myself, both privately and in school. School was a means to an end to attain a position in life where I feel good. This is a student writing this. Life itself seems meaningless, but I'm here whether I like it or not, so I want to make my time here as pleasant as possible. So you have the pleasure principle. If anything were to upset my plans, I would regard it as a terrible blow. Yeah, and you can guess what kind of blow it will be if that's all which holds you in life. Yeah, I think you can imagine. So if these motivation theories were correct, and I know I'm preaching to the choir, you know that meaning is important, but I still am trying to, then you should see this this function, yeah. If you're successful, if you have all you want, if you give all the sexual desire, pleasure you want, all the money, all the power, and so on, you should be fulfilled, yeah. And it's just as easy as that. I mean, modern consumer society is based on these principles. And on the other hand, you should see desperation, and as soon as there's failure or any deficit. Now, what you really see is this. And the question is, what happens there when people are really, and you see it in the hospitals, even in the cancer stations or wherever, people are fulfilled, though life does not give them anything they really want. Yeah? And on the other hand, and this is where psychotherapy is often used and needed, you have highly successful people who can afford therapy, who have great families, a great job, they earn enough money, but they know something is missing. And they're desperate. So this is where Frankl comes in, and I'd like to give it to make it in a picture. If you were living, and just really imagine this was true, yeah, you were living in a palace and you have everything you have, all the women, all the sexual joy you can have, and everything, and all the power and all the money, and you can afford just you get it. But at the same time, you really knew that your life was totally meaningless, devoid of any meaning, that you're just a piece of meat, living and dying, that's it. Yeah. What would happen? I think you would feel the pleasure because we have bodily pleasures. But even one crack in the wall would be a terrible blow. Anything which goes wrong, anything which is not perfect, would lead to a total devastation. Yeah, because there's nothing to lean upon. There's nothing to fall down upon. Where we are caught. Yeah. So, what Frankl did, and this is really the most important turn in a way in psychology, in motivation theory. And here in the second lower in the lower half, I added also some of the more modern theories of motivation. The need to belong, self-esteem, power, and so on. In the end, the question always is is it good for me? Whatever I experience, how do I feel about it? What's in it for me? Are my deficits fulfilled? Yes or no? Yeah, is my thirst stilled? Yes or no? Whereas with meaning, the question is very different. It's not is it good for me? What am I good for? Yeah. And how practical is this? I would like to tell you in a very short. Well, actually, there are two examples, but one example would be more theoretical. It's giving donations. And the one point is giving donations because it feels good and it instills your conscience, or giving donations because you see that really somebody is in need. Yeah? As an action, it's almost the same. Yeah, but what is happening in you is the most important point. And the other example is fairly recent because I experienced this with three of my students. I'm teaching at Vienna Medical School, and one of our students one day came and she was quite moved and sad. And she told us she's working in like an internship in the Brain Cancer Union for Children, which is a very tough job. And and I told her, well, then tell us because it's important. It was a logotherapy lecture, and she said, yes, we've got, I think, 50 children on the station, 5 to this is what I'm sorry, and I'm moved, and I'm sorry, and I can't change it. But that much I can say as a psychologist, as a human being, I can say, my God, did you have a guardian angel? Your mother didn't succeed, the passers-by with it, and there were many other situations. How much luck did you have? Yeah, how many coincidences, so to speak, yeah, led to this very moment that you can, So this is a movement from condition, you can't change it, to freedom. And the question the patient herself asks now is very logically, okay, I've been spared by existence, by whoever, yeah, but what for? Why have I been spared? Why so many coincidences led me to the moment where I can still live? Yeah, and this is where the question of meaning and the question of freedom, so to speak, match together. Yeah. Ah, okay. Actually, I wanted to skip this file, but so there we go. Yeah. So if let's say you have a patient like this or any other human being, each of us has no freedom of choice to what happened until this very moment. Frankl used to have a nice picture for it. If your life is like a book, yeah, you're at this chapter. You can't choose what happened with it, but you can choose what will happen next to you. So you're the author and the main protagonist of this book. And it is you who's taking a potential, something which is in your area of freedom, and realize it, bring it into existence. Yeah. And in the very end, that would not have what would not have been without me gives witness of my presence, of my existence. Yeah. Were it not for you, it would not exist. Yeah. And this is how personal meaning is. Only you can write a song the way you do. Only you. There's not one general meaning we are talking about, but we are talking about very personal meanings. It changes from hour to hour, from moment to moment, and from person to person. Yeah. Which is why two things are important. No one is replaceable. Functions are replaceable. We can be a president, next year it will be another one. Functions are replaceable, yeah. Persons are not, because personhood is something individual, and existence does not repeat herself. Yeah, not even snowflakes are the same. Yeah? So, so in the end, you are asked, yeah, and not your conditions, not what others say. So not what others tell you, but what you recognize as meaningful. Okay, so the instrument by which we find meaning is our conscience. And I say cave, which be careful, it is not a superego, it is not tradition, it is not what have been taught, but that which we recognize as good. And one perfect way to see whether your conscience is speaking or your superego or your tradition is speaking is if there's 1 inch of anxiety, one iota of anxiety, yeah, it is not your conscience. If you're carrying what will others say and so on, it is tradition. Yeah. If you just know it is your conscience. And you see in South Africa, for example, for a very long time, apartheid was the norm. Your superego would have told you segregation of the races. Yeah. But conscience would rebel against it. Yeah. Tradition would support it. So each of us has the capability and the freedom to follow his conscience or her conscience. Okay. This is another important point. When we say that conscience guides you to meaning, it is not a constructionist force. What logotherapy really believes is that if you're not doing occupational therapy, so people declare something to be meaningful, but that meaning really is out there. And our work as logotherapists, Frankl often said, is like eye doctors. We have to correct the seeing so that people can like in a picture like this, recognize that there is something in it which is objectively there, potentially. I hope you see the dog. So this is how it works. Okay, I'm very short before the end. this is another and very important paradox of logotherapy. With birth, our parents give life to us, and with death, we are setting ourselves into the world, because we are the sum, so to speak, the total sum of all those potentials which were there knocking at your door, yeah, and you were the one deciding with your conscience, should this one should this one get into existence, or should it just fade away, yeah. So up until the very last moment, we can choose what will be the harvest of and what will remain of us. Yeah, and as Frankl said, each deed, you said it today, is a monument. So everything we do by choice, aware of meaning, yeah, remains. Not maybe not the money you get from it, but the act of choosing remains. It will tell something about you, and it will be true in a million years, and if nobody remembers it, it will remain a truth about, a thief, that he stole money. The money will be gone long ago, yeah. But the being is more than the having, so to speak, yeah. It will remain true of you. So, and this is what logotherapy tells you about time and past and the moment. The future is only a potential. In the future, there lie many opportunities, many things you can choose from. The moment is always now, where you are, yeah? And the past is those potentials which you realized. And they remain in truth, so to speak. They are true sentences, yeah? If you remember them or not, but they will remain. Yeah? It will remain true about a thief that he stole in 1,000 years, yeah? At the big crunch, it will be true of him, yeah? The money will be gone, and he will be gone maybe too. But the choice will remain, yeah. So this is how we actualize ourselves. And the last point I would like to make, because I heard this very often at this conference, and I think this is important to say: self-actualization, self-realization, something Maslow wrote a lot about, and so on, is perfect and very good. No, but what logotherapy tells you is another important point. Each of us has many different selves we could be. And which of those is going to be actualized? Which of those is going to remain? This is the crucial question. Yeah, of Aristotle, it is said that he knew he could either be a thief, really, or a philosopher, and he chose the philosopher. So it's not that you have to realize everything in you and actualize each of yourselves, yeah, but choose the best one, yeah, so that at the very end you can say, okay, it's been a good life and a good death as well. Yeah, if you choose the wrong one, neither living nor dying will be very easy. So, and then it remains eternally true in existence, which means it is a true. I don't know whether you get what I mean. Yeah, it remains. It remains because nobody can undo it. You can't undo the past. Yeah, and so just imagine what meaning, freedom, and becoming, if you put the three together, really mean, what they implicate, yeah? That each of us is co-creating a world, not because of what others are saying, but each of us for his or herself, for others maybe, going outward, but each of us is deciding history in a way, in a very small way, but still in a way. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.